So it's already clear that the Fed's 0% interest rate will cause more fear than COVID-19. They simply couldn't wait 3 days until the next meeting, and they didn't even move this fast in 2008. The simple explanation as to why this has caused panic and market sell-off is that it signals they're bracing for a recession, that they can't prevent it at this point. They're trying to stimulate whatever growth and activity they can, and that's precisely what a 0% rate is meant to do. Additionally, the Fed cut reserve requirement ratios for thousands of banks to zero. That was put in place to stop banks from going bankrupt due to bad loans. And so what does that mean? Well, when the Fed reduces the reserve ratio as they did, they're reducing the requirement that a bank has to hold, say, 10% of your money you put into your bank account. So if you put $100,000 into your bank, instead of the bank being able to lend 90% or $90,000 to borrowers, they can now lend 100% or the full $100,000 out. So banks have more money to lend out. Well, you might say, if my bank lends my full $100,000 to someone else, how will I get my money out of the bank tomorrow? Well, the answer is your bank will borrow it from the Federal Reserve at a now 0% interest rate. So now banks have more money to lend, they can borrow it at effectively no cost from the Fed when they run out, and they can now lend money at a lower interest rate, though it may take some time for those things to actually play out. And to me, it sounds like the Fed are expecting worldwide economic activity to essentially stop because 0% interest rates, no reserve requirements, and $1.5 trillion in short-term loans to banks essentially means they can throw money at problems. Pay wages, bail out businesses, fund the production and deployment of medical equipment, and worry about all the bills later. But will this all be enough? The timing and the size of this cut may indicate that the economy is in much worse shape than previously thought, which has led to a drop already. Unfortunately, you can't print enough money to magically create and distribute a vaccine, and the fear is already here. America has gone from a robust growing economy with normal consumer behavior to canceling travel, not dining out, no large gatherings, not visiting public places, etc., all within the span of about a week and a half. This is, by any measure, a completely unprecedented drop in consumer activity and thus demand. Because of that lack of consumer activity, companies have started to borrow heavily on credit lines to do basic stuff like cover expenses and meet payroll. And this is putting a ton of strain on the credit markets. What the Fed is essentially trying to do is prevent layoffs and bankruptcies from spiraling out of control. The most massive domino effect in history. A systemic collapse because everything and everyone is interconnected and over-leveraged because debt is the glue that holds them all together, and once that's gone, or not supported by cheap capital, the house of cards falls very quickly. Layoffs will compound when airlines and hotels and restaurants and malls and retail, etc. are firing workers. The workers won't have any money to spend on buying things. And that means other businesses will suffer as well and have to lay off more workers, which creates a vicious cycle. Businesses in 2020 overall are so over-leveraged that a large percentage of them are not going to be able to handle even a few months of lower business. They simply can't pay all the expenses and debt obligation. So effectively, the Fed is trying to offer a discount window for temporary liquidity, but it doesn't do a whole lot for the underlying systemic liquidity problems. I think we can all agree that it's extremely worrying that the Fed is doing this in such rapid motion. The Fed is pulling all these levers on a late Sunday afternoon, a few days before a scheduled meeting. They know something we don't, and what they know has to be terrifying. We can guess that the recession is already here, and this move is probably the first of many to blunt the severity of it. So how do we as individuals respond? The way I see it, I have 5 choices in a market downturn. The first is to adjust my portfolio targets. Now, this downturn made me realize my portfolio choices were riskier than I have an appetite for. I'm going to use some more conservative investment options. The second option is to do nothing. Well, I know markets go up and down, and I'm confident this is temporary and my portfolio will stay the course. Third option is to invest more and buy the dip. Well, stock prices are down and it's a great buying opportunity. I'm going to be more aggressive. The fourth option is to take advantage of the dip. Well, I think the market has about another 10% to lose, so I'm going to move my positions over to those that gain value when the market sells off. The fifth option is to sell my portfolio. Well, the big one's coming. I'm going to hold everything I can as cash or cash alternatives until the danger subsides and re-enter when the market has stabilized. But of course, here's the million-dollar question: which is the right one? Depending on your unique financial situation, the answer could be any of them. Some of them, all of them, or none of them. We could also consider a couple investing avenues. Real estate is definitely one people are going to be looking at right now. What effect does this pandemic have on the real estate market? Well, residential real estate is propped up by cheap mortgage rates. While you'd think that rates would go down, mortgage rates have actually gone up recently. This is because banks have increased rates because they got hit with a huge surge of demand and couldn't keep up. So I don't foresee housing prices dropping in the near term, but longer term, it's definitely possible. If the coronavirus causes a long recession and mass unemployment, this will lead to people missing payments and mass foreclosures. So how about investing in stocks then? Well, the winners will definitely be the companies that use the internet to transact business, as more of us are going to be at home spending more time on our computers and devices. I believe that the new digital economy is being born out of these diametrically opposed forces, the push for safety and the pull of convenience. The killer app that we've been waiting for really never had anything to do with this space. You see, necessity is the mother of invention, but constraint is the father. Now, so far as I can tell, there are 3 possible outcomes to the overall macro and how to respond to them. First, this is not the end of the world, and eventually the market will have a V-shaped recovery, so just keep buying little by little as you can. The second is that this is the end of the world, in which case, be well stocked in bullets, beans, and band-aids, and stop caring about the stock market. And there's option 3, which is, this is not the end of the world, but this will not be a V-shaped recovery. This will be a prolonged and painful recession, if not a depression. V-shaped recovery or not, the market either recovers or it doesn't, and there are actions to take while it goes down and while it comes back up too, even if that return is slow. Personally, I think we're somewhere in between options 1 and 3, with the clear distinction that this is the end of a version of the world, but a beginning of a new one as well. We could very well see the beginnings of a new age in technological adoption as consumer trends demand more of the digital economy. As the digital economy sees an upswing, let's not discount the increase in demand for digitally native services and products. We would do well to identify what products and services and companies would potentially benefit in a world of quarantined individuals and those that are just spending more time inside. Represents what I think is part of the new normal and is a good representation of how you anticipate and react to changing market conditions and consumer trends. Importantly, it doesn't end here. And this is the new normal. So how are you responding to the coronavirus crash? What are your investment plans for the future? And what do you believe are the most important actions to be taking right now? So if you like the channel, don't forget to subscribe. It really helps us get out of the door. And if you'd like to see more of our analysis and see some of our stock alerts and our newsletter, head over to readyset.trade, where we're building a service all around helping you craft a system that enables you to make $100 a day through active and passive income, and is certainly going to be something that's going to help you buffer against the uncertainty ahead. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.
Pull up, pull up, pull up,